Well, for more on this and the broader humanitarian crisis, let's go now to Gaza City and speak with Tess Ingram. She is a spokesperson for UNICEF, the UN's Children's Fund. Really good to have you back with us, Tess. Children, as we know, are the most vulnerable in any conflict, especially in the war we're seeing in Gaza right now. We know Israeli forces are ramping up their assault on Gaza City where you are. What are you finding on the ground in terms of the impact that this intensified fighting is having on Gaza's youth?
It's having an enormous impact on children here. I think, first of all, it's important for us to remember that every second person in Gaza City is a child. So this really is a city of children, and they're being disproportionately affected by this conflict, as you said. The first way that we're seeing that at the moment is, of course, the famine, which has been confirmed here by the international experts. There are children who are little more than skin and bones coming to UNICEF-supported nutrition clinics with their parents, desperately seeking help because food remains so scarce here in Gaza City. What little is available in the markets, families can't afford it, so they really are relying on one meal a day from a community kitchen that they share amongst 3, 4, 5 family members, and generally that's just rice or lentils. So we're seeing rising numbers of malnutrition in children. For 6 months in a row, it has gone up to 13,000 children across the Gaza Strip in July, and the August numbers seem to be tracking higher, which is incredibly concerning given this is preventable. And then, of course, the second way that we're seeing children so desperately impacted here is with the onset of displacement. We're already seeing tens of thousands of people move across Gaza City to get away from the fighting, which is pressing from the east, the north and the south, and really channeling people here to where I am in West Gaza. Families are already being impacted with strikes and shelling. I've been in hospitals in recent days where there were so many children in these wards with new traumatic injuries, shrapnels tearing their small bodies apart or breaking their bones.
We've been looking at horrific images of emaciated children, children who are on the brink of starvation. And indeed, we know more and more Palestinians, including children, are dying from hunger-related causes. Yet Israel claims that it's allowed more aid into the enclave. But as our correspondents and organisations like yours are insisting, that's nowhere near enough of what's needed in terms of stemming this hunger crisis. Can you just give us an update on the reality on the ground in terms of the aid that's coming in to Gaza and specifically Gaza City?
As you say, in the last month or so, we've seen a very small increase, but it's not meaningful. And if we're serious about addressing this situation, it has to be meaningful. There is no reason why every child in Gaza can't wake up tomorrow and have breakfast. That's a possibility. And this near blockade, which continues, is not an inevitability. It is something that should be addressed and must be addressed in order to save children's lives. UNICEF is getting aid into the Gaza Strip. Again, it's not enough, but what we are getting in, we are bringing it across Gaza. We've had 2 distributions up here to the north in the past week of nutrition supplies, and that's so critically important because those supplies, when we are able to get them to children, really do save lives. I met a mother this week who was breastfeeding her baby for the first time in a long time. Both were malnourished but had been treated at a UNICEF clinic for 3 weeks and were getting better. So this is what we can do if only we're enabled on the ground, but unfortunately it's just not reaching enough children at the moment, and that's why we're seeing the number of malnourished children continuing to rise.
And what about Israel's efforts to evacuate large parts of Gaza City? We know that they've sent out various advisories calling on all residents of that area to move further south as it ramps up its attack. But as we know, many Palestinians there have been displaced many times over. Many simply don't have the means or the energy in order to pick up and move further south yet again. What's the situation there with residents being forcibly displaced?
It has begun. I think the world is warning, don't let an intensified military operation in Gaza City occur, but it is clearly underway. As I said, in the north, the east, and the south, we've seen evacuation orders, we've seen intensified strikes, and as I said, children have been killed and injured in increasing numbers in Gaza City in recent weeks. So this is of grave concern. Families understand the risk that they're facing. I've spoken to many families this week who have fled those areas for so-called safer parts of Gaza City, and they really are trying to prevent having to move further south and out of Gaza City. For many people here, this is home, but also it's really one of the last places of refuge where services are still operating. For example, those malnutrition clinics where parents can get help for their children. Transport to the south is also very expensive. For many families, they can't afford it. And we know that in the south, there's just not enough space for hundreds of thousands of more people to move into an increasingly smaller area that's not under evacuation orders.
Okay, Tess Ingram, we'll have to leave it there, but the very best of luck with your work in Gaza, and thank you again for joining us on the program.